What's up, humans? My name is David, and I help people develop self-awareness and self-compassion, and this is another Blue Chair Talk. It is the second week, I do believe, of talking about the hemispheres, and I can barely contain my excitement, which you may have noticed last week. Man, I love talking about this stuff. So, a Blue Chair Talk is a weekly unscripted video that I make and starts with a little sharing of some thoughts and ideas, stuff I'm learning about developing self-awareness and self-compassion, understanding the human experience. And I also include a 10-minute guided meditation at the end. So that's what is going on here. And like I said, today, more hemispheres. Today, kind of going to get into the basic biology. We're kind of early on in an undetermined number of talks about the hemispheres, because I'm so excited. And anyway, this one is the sort of, what does a brain even look like? David keeps saying hemispheres. What are hemispheres? Okay, so that's what we're going to get into today. And I'm going to start with just one caveat. Caveats are kind of my specialty. I like when there are at least three. But just one caveat today, and that is that today I am going to openly speak in just huge generalizations and oversimplifications. It's just how we're going to be able to cover everything that we want to cover. So far as I can tell from the research, this is mostly my research, but Ian McGilchrist, did a lot of research and a lot of review of other people's research. From what we can tell from the research, everything I'm sharing with you today is true and or very fair extrapolations. Let's put it that way. So yes, there are going to be exceptions to anything I claim here because we're talking at such a big scale. But with that said, caveat over, let's dive into it, my friends. Today, we're going to look at very basic, like, what does a human brain look like? Then we're going to ask, hey, what does it look like in other animals? And then we're going to circle back again to humans and brains and minds because it's all so very complicated. So let's start with human brains. What do they look like? Well, sort of icky, gross, but imagine, we're taking apart someone's head. Hopefully they are already passed away if we're studying this. And what we find is some divisions. And we've known this for a long time in the scientific community. There are different, it seems like parts of the brain. And so for a long time, we've been studying that and trying to figure out, well, why are there different parts? Do they do different things? What all is going on here? So one pretty confident, if simplified, division that we can see is sort of way up top here. We have these two huge hemispheres. And that's the cerebral cortex right up here. It's almost like a two-sided helmet that you would put over the top of the sort of secondary, much smaller layer deep inside, and then a third part that is sort of more in the brainstem down here. And again, to vastly oversimplify, it seems that is about sort of more way deep down in the back and like the lower brainstem, that's more about bodily regulation, right? So stuff like how fast your heart is beating and sort of dealing with digestion and stuff that is very fundamental physical body regulation type stuff. Then as you get further up, we seem to be getting into more complicated motion stuff, I think. And then up from there, back into the cerebral cortex, up top, the topmost layer, seems to be where all of the fancy thinking stuff happens. This is way, way oversimplified, and there are debates about where we would draw these lines and exactly what that interplay looks like. Oy, so complicated. But that's your basic idea of on the kind of layers side, down to up. But then there's also this massive division left and right. And that's even more confusing. And a few decades ago, they started trying to do some research on that in the scientific community. And they started publishing some stuff. And then, as usual, the media, the news outlets sort of picked up on some of these things And pop psychology sort of picked up on some of these findings, and they went way too far in making claims of what the left hemisphere does and what the right hemisphere does, and like really crazy kind of stuff, like that the right hemisphere is the like female or feminine hemisphere and vice versa. These kind of claims are so bananas. So the whole enterprise of researching hemispherical differences, like how and why the hemispheres are different, it kind of went dark because it was so embarrassing to, to deal with some of the oversimplification that had happened. It was so bad that there was just such a bad reputation around talking about hemispherical differences. But eventually we did pick that back up. Pretty much kind of this guy, Ian McGilchrist, was a pioneer back into that territory. And man, am I happy. So one of the things we have known for a long time about the hemispherical differences is that there is cross control. So your left side of your brain is in charge of your right hand. Now that is kind of funny as it is. Not sure exactly why that would be, right? But it gets even weirder when you look at other body parts and other sense organs. So for example, the eyes, you might think in a simplistic way that the right eye is controlled by the left hemisphere or something like that. But no, it's actually that half the image or something like this, half the like left half of the image from each eye goes to the right hemisphere and vice versa. It's crazy stuff. So I love that kind of stuff. But of course, we're interested in how this fits into self-awareness and actually self-compassion. So maybe another good question to ask ourselves next in trying to understand why there would be two hemispheres, why there is that huge division in the brain. The brain otherwise seems to be all about networking, so wouldn't just an undivided brain allow for more networking and therefore better thinking? So that's kind of what we're trying to find out. So as we look into the rest of the animal kingdom, do we find a similar situation, or is it unique to humans? And no, it is not at all unique to humans. We find this all over the animal kingdom. So it's very clear in primates, for example, but the asymmetric brain and asymmetric neural networks are found all over. So in the avian class, ye birds, the reptiles have it. And in fact, the oldest sea creature that we know of that has yet been discovered has not really a brain, because it's sort of this wormy thing, I think. And so it doesn't really have a brain that we would like see and like, oh, look, hemispheres. But it does have an asymmetric neural network for its control. So the current thinking is that it developed this way with separated neural networks, which eventually, in our case, has resulted in fully or like very different hemispheres of the brain. We think that this is about the need to solve two fundamentally different survival problems or tasks, things that need to happen in order for us to stay alive and stay alive long enough to reproduce, and in our case, take care of kids. So those two tasks are staying aware of our surroundings. And yes, again, this is very oversimplified. Staying aware of our surroundings and then also controlling our surroundings. And a really sleek, clear way that we can see this is in the case of birds. And so if you look at birds when they're trying to pick up some food off the ground, I want you to imagine whatever your favorite bird is, and it's sort of on a gravel patch, and there's like a kernel of corn in there somewhere. They have to be able to see that in fine enough detail and really be quite focused, right? And lots of detail means lots of mind resources, right? Very detailed attention is very heavy task, very heavy load on the brain. So they need a lot devoted very focusedly on the detail of being able to pick up that one little kernel out of the rest of the sort of gravel background, while at the same time staying aware enough of their surroundings that they don't get eaten, right? That focus does not entail full enough unawareness, right? That they just get eaten every time they try to eat, right? So that's kind of a crude, simplistic, but pretty effective picture for what's going on. And if you watch birds, what they do is every time, let me make sure I get this right, every time they are going to be using their right eye to do the detail work, and their left eye is going to be the one connected to the right hemisphere, which is taking in their surroundings and staying aware of the bigger picture. So, circling back to humans, humans are more complicated than birds. And seen. Well, it is in understanding what we've learned from the rest of the animal kingdom and in a lot of studies that we've been able to do on humans that we come to see that this extra complicated, far more evolved brain that we have has taken a lot of those basic needs, basic evolved strategies of a divided neural network, and it's ramped it up to a huge degree. And that's kind of really what we're going to be exploring over the next coming weeks as we look into human psychology, the human experience, and hemispherical differences. So, what are the two hemispheres for is actually kind of the wrong question. And it betrays our left hemisphere bias, our control bias. We want to know in a sort of a mechanical or a mechanistic way, what do these hemispheres do? And the difference is actually more in how they do them, because for almost everything that we do, both hemispheres are involved, but they have a very different way of going about it. Cliffhanger for that, and that's what we're going to be talking about the whole next few weeks coming up here. But this week, I want to invite you to try and notice how you're doing things this week. Not just a simple mechanistic, did I get this done or did I fail to get this done? Not just a productivity grade for yourself, but did you enjoy it? It's not like we have to enjoy everything, but was it worth it? Did you find it pleasant to do the things you were doing? Or maybe, what were the most pleasant things that you did really enjoy? What makes something enjoyable versus not? Could you enjoy cleaning the dishes? Is that conceivable? All right. That's the invitation for this week. And now let's transition into a slightly shorter meditation this week, since the talking went so long. Gosh, sermons, you know. All right, take a seat. Take a breath. Go ahead and close your eyes. And maybe you saw me rolling back the shoulders. Attend to your body and what you need. Maybe this meditation is something you could enjoy. Maybe all of the other tasks, the things on your to-do list, the things that are bouncing around in your head and haven't even made it to your to-do list, maybe all of that can wait. And you can enjoy this moment of life. Maybe you've heard someone somewhere say that everything in life is a gift. Certainly, there are times where that seems absurd. And if you're like me, you think, that sounds like something on a Hallmark card, and that's not my jam. But that idea is an invitation to experience life differently. Again, not the what of what you're doing, but how. And meditation is such a good opportunity to practice that. Maybe this next breath is a gift. And this next one. What can you feel right now in the rest of your body? If you notice any pain, feel free to resituate and be as comfortable as you can, but then look around your body for a neutral or pleasant sensation and see if you can behold it so simply that it becomes a gift, an overlooked gift. Alrighty, my friends. As we wrap up for today, remember the invitation throughout the course of this week. Oh, actually, throughout the next 2 weeks, because next week I'll be traveling, no Blue Chair Talks, but I'll see you again in 2 weeks. So over the next 2 weeks, try and notice how you're doing in life. Of course, it is very important what we do in life. But it is possible to live weeks, months, maybe years on end without giving much thought to how we're doing it. And it's possible to simply shift our attention in most cases and actually ask, maybe I could enjoy this more. Sometimes it means slowing down a bit, but I'm pretty sure that's worth it most of the time. Alrighty, my friends. I hope this was informative and relaxing and centering, and I hope you learned something. I love sharing this stuff. And I hope that I'll see you again in 2 weeks for another Blue Chair Talks. Subscribe on YouTube, comment, send me questions through any of the social media or other communication forms. And until next week, nope, 2 weeks, know your mind, love your life.